Hey there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. I'm going to be sharing 4 different projects that I made with Simon Says Stamp's Fresh Air Flowers kit. Keep in mind, this kit is beautiful for making cards all year long and for anybody. I'm going to be using a mom die throughout a lot of my projects because it is part of the kit. But keep in mind that you don't have to make these cards for mom. You could switch out the sentiment and create these projects for anybody in your life. So the first project I wanted to share was I wanted to stamp some of the images from the Fresh Air Flowers stamp set and create a colorful cluster of beautiful blooms. I'm going to be using some Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks, and I have these colors out right now. These are the colors that I'm going to stamp the largest flower first with, but I'm going to use some other colors throughout the stamping, so you'll see me as I go along here. What I love about this stamp set is that it isn't required to be super specific. You don't have to line up these images 100% perfectly. They're going to turn out beautiful even if they're all a little askew. I tried to match them up to how the stamped images are supposed to look, but I think I probably have them a little askew at spots, and I think that's perfectly fine because these are very, very forgiving. They're a freestyle type of flower, so you don't have to be worried about them being super perfect lined up. Honestly, probably the most important part is making sure that the stem is connected to the flower. So I used a trio of positively saturated violet inks. We've got the trio of different purples here, which looks really pretty. And then I picked out 2 greens, and I'm going to stamp the stem and leaves to create my finished floral. Now, I don't have the coordinating dies for this stamp set, but if you do have them, they're going to make it super easy for you to cut out these images. So I actually ended up fussy cutting mine when I'm all done, but if you like this stamp set, I would totally encourage you to get the dies. Okay, so now we're going to work on this next cluster of flowers. And if you pay attention to the stamp set when you get it, you're going to notice that there are markings next to each image that allow you to know which pieces go with what. So for instance, this cluster here is labeled B. So you've got B1, B2, B3, B4, etc. Clustering all the pieces that are required for that specific image. So this makes picking out the images that are required for each grouping of flowers to make it really simple for you to find them and then use them for your stamping. So I'm now stamping this small cluster of flowers here. This one's really cute. They kind of remind me of like little daffodils or something. And I thought they would be fun to stamp those in yellow. Finishing things up, I added some of that nice green for the leaves. Now I'm ready to start putting these onto a card. So I picked out a white card base, and I'm just going to ink blend in the center of my card with some teal ink. This is Seafoam, and I'm trying to lay out my flowers here and pick out a nice grouping. I want to leave a little space at the bottom for my greeting, and I just pop these up with some thin 3D foam squares. My sentiment, I want to match the red color that's in the florals. It's kind of a peachy red, and I'm using blush for this. I wanted that same color for my sentiment, but I don't have a cardstock that matches, so I'm making my own by smushing some ink onto that paper. Then I'm going to die cut this fancy mom die that's part of the kit from both white cardstock and also now my custom color of cardstock. And I'll just die cut this as if it were a colored cardstock because now it is. So I have a white layer for the mom greeting itself, and that's going to get popped up underneath of my colored piece just to give my sentiment a little bit of dimension. I'm using craft tacky glue to help me fiddle this in place. I like using liquid glue for a more finicky sentiment just so I have a little bit of wiggle room if I don't get it perfectly placed. And this card is almost done. I only added just a few sequins from the sequin mix that's included in the kit. And oh, by the way, do you see this tool? This is new from Simon Says Stamp. This is the Place and Pierce tool. It's perfect for sequins, and I just love the 2 tips. The other tip is a pokey tool for using with your dies, and there are protective covers that you could put over top of your tips to make sure that the tool A doesn't get dirty when you're not using it, or B, for the pokey end, you don't poke yourself. So that's a really neat tool, and I'll be using that throughout the rest of my projects here. So speaking of additional projects, I now wanted to work with the stencil set that's included in the kit. This is Hearts of Bloom. I actually designed this stencil set. It's really fun to work with, and it has 4 layers. It allows you to build this cute little heart of florals and leaves, which I think is really pretty. And I will cover the backside of the first layer, which is the branches of the heart, with some pixie spray. That's just going to hold that center portion of the heart in place as I'm ink blending. So I've picked out a light brown ink from Simon Says Stamp. It's actually a grayish brown, but it's going to look really pretty with these flowers. And I'm just using a blending brush to apply that ink across my heart. Now I'll remove that stencil to reveal the first layer. And we're going to bring in the second layer now, which are the leaves. And the packaging for the stencil does show how this all gets put together, so it makes it really simple for you to build this. I'm just going to hold this stencil down with some very, very low tack tape from Simon Says Stamp. This will hold the stencil in place, and also it won't wreck my paper when I actually peel the tape off later. I'm using detail blending brushes now at this point because I don't want to get any ink anywhere where I don't want it, and I want to be able to color these with a little bit of shading. I want a little bit more of intense color towards the bottom of the leaves and then fade out as it goes towards the top of the leaves. That layer is done, and we're now replacing it with the floral layer. This one nests in between the leaves, and that's why I like using the leaf layer first, because that allows you to figure out where you're placing the florals. There's also a shading layer, which is optional. You don't have to use it, but if you are going to, I do recommend making sure that your placement of the florals is a-okay by laying that shadow layer on top, because then that'll ensure that the shadow layer is going to line up with the florals and the leaves, because the shading layer for both is on one stencil. Okay, so we're wrapping things up with some color on the florals themselves. I used some nice bright springy colors, pinks and purples, a little bit of yellow, and look how cute this is. So now we're just going to bring in that shading layer, and we're going to lay that right on top, and because we checked the placement before, we know it lines up perfectly, so I can just lay that in place and then add shading to my flowers and some to the leaves. And this is where the detail blending brushes come in so handy to make sure that you're not getting ink where you don't want it. I actually did another stenciling video just recently, which I'll link to in the top right corner, and I used detail blending brushes to do that too. It was a completely different project, completely different type of layered stenciling, but same concept with making sure I have a control of where my ink is going with those detail blending brushes. So check that out. Okay, so our stenciling is done. Look how cool this is. We're going to turn this into a card by adding a little strip of purple cardstock from the kit along the bottom portion of my card. I did cut that down into a little scallop with a border die that I had in my stash, and then I just tied a bit of ribbon around that as well, just for a little bit of pop of pink. I wanted to kind of tie that in with the rest of the pink in the card. And then I'm just using a sentiment strip on the bottom portion of the card to finish things off. That nestled nicely right underneath the heart in between the purple cardstock we have at the bottom. I turned some of the cornflower cardstock that's in the kit into a card base, which I think looks really pretty showing up along the bottom portion of my card. And here's that tool again. I'm using it to help me place my sequins onto my card project, and I'm just gluing them down with some liquid glue. So this card is complete. I think it's really fun, bright, and cheery. Now, if you're into more of a mixed media type of approach and you like more muted colors, then the next two projects are for you, because we're going to make a decorative box and we're going to make a gift card holder that's got a little bit of a more layered effect. So this box is included in the kit. It comes flat, but you're just going to fold on the score lines and just build the shape back together. It's really simple to do. Basically, you just fold the two flaps on the top and bottom. Then there are also these really cool layered frames from Holtz in the kit. Now, I wanted something that would fit the opening of my window here, so I'm actually going to trim these down. And I'm going to make it more of a square by cutting off this extra bottom portion. So now I'm just going to layer these back together to form a square frame. You're never going to be able to tell that I did this. Because these already have a layered effect to them, the fact that I'm layering these two pieces together kind of just goes hand in hand. You can't even tell that this was ever done. So I love how this turned out, and I'm deciding now how I'm going to finish decorating it. I used one of the wood stickers that are in the kit along the bottom corner, and then I thought, you know what? I really want to turn this into a blue box. So I pulled out distress paints. I've got Lost Shadow, I also have Speckled Egg, and some black. And I'm just going to create a dry brush effect. I want this to be very sketchy, very distressed, and not perfect. So I'm just going to brush paint on and allow some of that craft box to continue to show through. And that's where the black comes in. In random sections, I'm just going to put just a little splash of black. It really just adds a little bit of interest to the colors, and I love that feathered blended look. It's really, really neat. So I painted every portion of this box, including the back side too, and I'm going to let that dry. It took probably about an hour to do so. And while I was waiting for that, then I started working on my card. So there's this cute gift card pocket die included in the kit, and I'm just going to cut this from some vellum. And just to make sure that I get a really good crease on the vellum, I'm actually reinforcing the score lines with my bone folder to make sure that they fold well. Vellum can sometimes be tricky to fold. Then I will go ahead and crease all those with my bone folder to make sure they're nice and crisp. On this vellum pocket, I'm going to stamp one of the floral images from the Fresh Air Flower stamp set, and I'm going to use embossing ink. So I took the stems first and stamped them along the right corner, coming in towards the left, and then I'll bring in this cute little floral image and stamp that with embossing ink as well. We're not going to use any of the shading layers or anything, we're just using the shape of the flower. I'm using cream embossing powder from Simon's Stamp. I didn't want white because this card is a little bit more on the vintage side, so the cream really is nice and soft. So I'm going to heat emboss that and then start layering my pieces together. I have another one of those frames from the kit and also some pattern paper that I've cut down to an A2 size card, and my little gift card pocket is going to go on the bottom right. To adhere it, I'm using some of the Terrific tape. This is 1/8 inch Terrific tape, and it's also part of the kit, which works perfect to adhere this gift card pocket with. So I'll lay that right on top of my card, and it's okay that it's overlapping with these other pieces. That's perfectly fine. The gift card is still going to fit inside beautifully. I'll show you here. So I easily can slip this in. It looks really cool. And I'm going to use that fancy mom die again here, and this time I'm going to cut it from some blue cardstock, which I thought paired really well in the colors of the pattern paper, and this blue cardstock is part of the kit. I used cream as my shadow layer because, again, I didn't want white because I didn't want this to be super in your face. I want this to kind of blend well with the colors that are in this, and I also added one of those cute wood stickers too. Here's my gift card. I'm going to slip that inside. The colors look really good with my card, by the way. And then I also pulled out one of these little buttons from Tim Holtz, not part of the kit. There was something in my stash. I used one on both my box and my card, but I think they look really cool and pair well with the colors of the kit. I have those linked below in the video description if you're interested. So my box I could fill with a gift. I'm just going to put some tissue paper in here for now, but if I had a gift, I would wrap it in the tissue paper and then stuff it in the box, just like I have here. So you can see that that window looks so pretty, and having a colored cardstock inside is such a nice touch. Now you could also put candy in there, that would also be fun. And you could give this as a gift set to mom or somebody for their birthday. Swap out the greeting for something else and just say happy birthday. And I think this would be an adorable birthday set. Okay, that was a lot. I hope you were inspired by all the things I had to share today. The kit that I'm mentioning throughout this video is a limited edition kit and only available while supplies last. So if you like it, I have links to it below in the video description as well as on my blog for you to check out. So be sure to hop on over there and see. If you like it, you'll want to grab it while you can. And if you have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comment section below. I'll get to you as soon as I can. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I can't wait to come back and share more with you. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.